Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll talk to a young motivational speaker who says, be the change can't just be a slogan on a bumper sticker. It's something you actually have to live. His story is next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, it seems like every time you turn around, there's a slogan. It's written on the wall of a break room. It's a meme, be the change. But what do those words truly mean? A guy who's taken it to heart, Anthony Russo, he is with the Truth Will Set You Free podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
Very cool. Well, I have this theory that, millennials and Gen Zs, they're really good on getting the likes and the shares, and they'll comment and they'll do mean tweets. But taking action is different.
It's very different. And we live in a society that is so into the concept of yelling at the top of their lungs for everything they believe is going wrong in this world, when in reality we have so much time in our lives to actually take action. So the whole philosophy behind it really is like, if you have these issues, if you believe that certain things in this world are going wrong,
right,
and certain things are creating pain in people's lives, talking about them on social media, especially if you're not a speaker, don't have a huge following, it's just complaining at that point, when we really have so much time to actually do something and the power to do it.
Yeah. And I've been a member of several volunteer groups, I'm sure you have too, where a bunch of people sit around and say, somebody should do something.
Right.
Not wanting to step up and do it themselves.
Right,
They're
right.
just saying somebody should do something.
Exactly.
But you really believe that if you're going to say be the change, you have to take action.
Right. And I've seen it as kind of this rallying cry for like businesses and companies, and it's like, feel good. But what's the actual action behind it? So I can tell you where it all came from, which was in 2016. Being from Dallas, there was the police shootings. And I lived a mile from where that happened. And I looked at what was going on in this world. And I just was like, let's take a step back. This is a bunch of police officers protecting people, protesting against them, actually being there against them. And they're protecting those that in that moment were not for them. 5 police officers died that day. And I realized that these protests were marching to a drum that had nothing to do with action. It just had to do with frustration and anger. And at the end of the day, we have so much power to actually figure out what we can do to make a difference instead of just talk about it. We complain so much about who our president is, who our politicians are, and the policies that are in place, but we can actually take the action over the awareness. We yell at the top of our lungs. It's time to actually do something. That's why I started in 2016. Had no idea where it was going to go from there, and it's had a bunch of ebbs and flows.
And he's an amazing speaker. I urge you to go to his website and check him out. Here's a clip. Go ahead.
So when it comes to failure, I'm going to give 3 quick stories. One is not my own. It is the story of, if anybody has seen the movie come out recently, American Underdog with Kurt Warner. Pat Hilton probably gets this too. I grew up in St. Louis. I was around for that, so it meant a little bit more to me. But there's a moment in that movie that's incredibly important and to take with you in your own life. So I knew most of his story. We actually sat right next to his wife, very close. But I didn't know that he was originally picked up by Green Bay in the very beginning. So he's picked up by Green Bay. He goes to training camp. He gets there. He's so excited. He buys his new car. He's so happy. Tells his wife he gets there. They give him the playbook, and he goes straight to practice. And they say, "All right, you're up." And he freezes. He goes, well, "I don't know the plays. I'm not ready to go in." he was cut that day. He didn't even make it he didn't get to throw a single pass for Green Bay, which could be crushing. Think of something in your own life that can absolutely crush you. And you go, I missed my opportunity. What am I doing? How did I make that mistake? Well, if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have struggled to become the individual he was. And then he ended up going the Arena League, which is a death sentence. However, it taught him a 3-step drop, which in the NFL is not needed. You use a five-step drop, but it allowed him to have a quicker release than any of the NFL quarterbacks, but he had NFL caliber talent. And then he got put on one of the most complicated offenses in the league after somebody tore his ACL, almost like God was looking out for him. Just like he looks out for all of us if we have faith and we believe everything happens for a reason. Because I guarantee you, little Tony Robbins right there, happens for you, not to you. Anybody else, you could look at that and go, holy crap, how did that happen? How did he go from being cut in one day to then being the starting quarterback on the St. Louis Rams, winning the Super Bowl like a storybook ending? All of our lives have elements of it. We may not be playing in the NFL, but we all deserve a storybook ending, but it happens with staying positive when we fail.
Wow. That was a great story.
Thank you.
I had no idea. You love speaking. What was the last couple years like? Because I know they canceled a lot of those events.
Yeah, it was rough. So I've been the on-field host for NCAA championships. I've done concerts. I've done parties. I've been speaking to tens of thousands of people, and then I was like, I need to do something that fits what I want. I had an end game when I was younger. I wanted to be a motivational speaker. People are like, well, you've got a successful business. What's your next step? And I go, what's your final step? I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. They're like, well, what after? I'm like, no, I literally could be good doing that forever. That's what I want to do and impact people's lives. So in 2019, I started making the switch. I took Be the Change, and I'm like, how could it actually have an effect on people's lives? I didn't know what my own topic was. Tried to find it, and then all of a sudden I realized it was overcoming failure, learning that everything happens for a reason. So once I got into speaking, 2019 happened. I'm getting ready. The economy's doing well. Speakers are getting hired all over the place. I finally started getting paying gigs, and then 2020 happened. And I fortunately started getting really into Be the Change, which is when it turned a little bit more political and having conversations with people and how to have a conversation right to left. But from the speaking world, it was gone. It was essentially gone. I was even though I've been around for 15 years in terms of leadership coaching and speaking, I was a rookie. And when you get back from that, as 2021 happened, you have these speakers that were the $25,000 a day speakers. Right. They're coming back. And they've had these big house payments to pay because they were making almost $1 million a year. They were taking the $5,000 a day gigs. They were taking the lower end gigs. And I was like, well, I'm out.
No, I'm friends with a lot of motivational speakers, and they had to eat their own cooking because they all, their business just went from, full to nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you listen to your own speech, what advice would you give yourself? And it's really, you can't sit there and with your head under the covers. You got to take action.
Absolutely. And everything happens for a reason. That's the great part that I took from it that I always talk about. I always say the one thing I've learned, and it's a cheesy adage, is that successful people realize that at the end of the day, everything truly happens for a reason. If you feel that way, it'll work out. So Be the Change. I ended up meeting a gentleman by the name of Cashley Kelly. I saw he went very, very viral. Black dude wearing a tank top in a car, smoking a cigarette, having a rant that ended up getting shared viewed over 100 million times. I reached out to him with a message. Again, everything happens for a reason. I Facebook message. I have the same last name as a guy he spent in juvie with. He was an ex-gangbanger when he was younger. Not a likely pair, him and I, obviously. And we connected because he thought I was somebody else. We got along well. He came on my show and nobody knew who he was except for this one video. And then he ended up meteoric rise to having 400,000 followers before it all got shut down. And he's currently in jail. Totally a different story for a different day. But he's a great guy, father of 10 kids. And I'm actually a godfather to his latest child. All happened very fast. Wow. But our station changed and it turned to something that, I still talk a lot about motivation. I can marry the concept of patriotism and motivation, but I grew an audience. I grew a platform that if I was doing little motivational speaking events, great, I'm impacting the 100 people in front of me, but now I actually have a wider platform with Truth Will Set You Free podcast, Be the Change, and all the stuff we talk about. It's great.
Well, we have to talk about your better half and your dog.
Yeah.
we were on your Facebook page, and there's just I don't know if there's more pictures of your girlfriend or your dog. We'll let them. But tell me more about your girlfriend.
So, and this is actually another story of everything happens for a reason. So that one's my dog. The brown ones, they're all our dogs now. It's our children.
Sure.
It's interesting because, again, the weird things happen in 2020, and I decided to buy an RV. Early midlife crisis. I'm going to live in the middle of nowhere and just see what happens. I had met Kelly in 2011-ish in Las Vegas, Nevada. She is a professional barrel racer. She was out there for the NFR. I was out there because my buddy was DJing for the NFR. We did not, we got exchanged information, but I was hitting on her friend, and she had other things going on, so we're good. But 10 years go by, she's been married, and all these things can happen in the world, and we're separate parts of Texas. Turns out, though, she bought a spa that was very close to the land that I was at my buddy's place with, parking my random RV. The RV was a terrible decision. They're just an absolute pain. And her spa, turns out, financially was not exactly what she thought she was buying. So these are two quote-unquote mistakes. These are lessons that you would typically learn, but it brought us to a proximity of about 10, 15 minutes apart. We connected. She liked a lot of the political shows that I do, and we ended up going on a date, and that's been a year and a half now, and it's been the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And
that's wonderful.
At one point, I'm sure we'll get married. Who knows?
Let's talk about your podcast.
Yeah. So Truth Will Set You Free started with Cash, the guy I talked about earlier, Cash Lee Kelly. Well, started about 2 weeks before that, but then it grew. We were very excited, me and a couple friends. We put it together. We're like, we need to have the hard conversations. It was right after George Floyd is when it really, so we had COVID. I had a couple episodes talking about truths, not truths. And then I went to the George Floyd stuff. I'm like, let's talk about what's really going on. And we had like 50 live viewers. And we're like, we did good. We killed it. Met Cash. And he was nobody 2 weeks before this, 3 weeks before, but then he was very quickly somebody. And I remember watching the tally go up on the live viewers, and we had 1,100 people watching at once. So we had over 100,000 views. It was just flying. I was like, so this is now something, if I can continue to be friends with Cash. And we did. We kind of partnered together. We found a way to grow the network, and it's the concept is we would love to have conversations with people from the opposite side. And probably can see my shirt. I lean a little bit right. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the conversations are supposed to be open-minded. In America, the whole philosophy isn't like, you say something, you're wrong. That's not the way that it should be.
Right.
It should be, why do you feel that way? And you should have a reason why you feel a certain way. And I think media has been this issue where independent journalism is truly the only thing that is giving people valid information and discernible information. And you'll hear a lot of the independent journalists take a step back and go, this is just what the research I've done, the doctors, the nurses, the police officers that I've talked to, and this is my belief. I encourage you to just think for yourself.
Yeah.
And we live in a weird world where they go, no, you can't look.
Right.
I lean on specialists. So do I. We just have two different takes.
Well, and I miss the earlier times, and I'll have to go. You probably have to go back to Reagan to find those times when the two parties actually talked and met in the middle somewhere, right?
Right.
And these days, it feels like you take a position, and you can't admit you're wrong.
Right.
It would be refreshing, and I haven't seen this in a while.
Yeah.
For a politician to say, "I was listening to the other side, and it made a lot of sense."
Right. You got Manchin. You get once in a while you hear that from, but no, it's fascinating. I don't know when it started. When do you think it started?
Probably during the Obama administration.
It was right around then. And I'll be honest, I was a Democrat my whole life. I went to art school. I mean, very liberal mentality, and I do my best because we do weekly shows on Tuesday nights. Truth Will Set You Free, and then I do my rants. I do my best to not say the word liberal as opposed to the other side, and any kind of derogatory term, because then you're just you put up a wall. Liberal the concept is to be open-minded, and I just believe the left side is no longer that way. So I try to avoid saying like, well, the liberals, and I'm like, no, that's not what it is. It really is left and right, and it really is Democrat, Republican, and then in the middle is actually most of America, but they don't know it,
right?
Because we've been conditioned to think just black and white in terms of politics, and it's
Yes.
just not the way it is. I'll get in discussions with conservatives that I have some liberal beliefs, and they're like, well, you don't understand the Bible. I'm like, I don't think you fully understand the main concept of the Bible.
Yes.
You get the scriptures, you get the stuff that you can poke on, but you don't necessarily get the overwhelming concept of God.
Sure.
Just throw that out
All right, final thoughts. What would you
Yeah.
like to leave the audience with?
Final thoughts is just we have this opportunity as Americans, we have this opportunity as people to realize that we are meant for so much more. We're meant for great things, and some of those great things involve other people with other philosophies, other mentalities, other concepts, and other passions. And if you truly want to create change, not just in the world, but in your own life, because if you can't create change in your own life, you're not going to help the people around you. It's like putting the mask on the airplane. You do yourself first. Be happy. You'll find a way to be successful. And then at the end of the day, you can then create change in the world around you. But it starts with taking action.
Love it. Love it. We're going to end with your website so they can get a hold of you, book you to speak. It's #BeTheChange.com.
Yep.
And that's where they can navigate to your podcast and everything that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Anthony Russo.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.